Hello guys, and welcome to the channel. In this one I'm going to show you how you can send email with Next.js, and unlike several other tutorials on YouTube, I'm going to show you how you can send email with 3 email services. So the first is Gmail, which is literally free, and I'll show you how to send with Resend, which is like the new kid on the block when it comes to sending email as far as developers are concerned. Then I'm also going to show you how you can send with AWS SES. That's Amazon Web Service simple email service. All right, so I'm going to show you the 3 of them, but before then let me sell my market. So if you like things about React full stack development, then make sure to check out my website course.zenotrustacademy.com and check out my signature course on men e-commerce plus fintech digital wallets. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe. All right, let's get started. So I have a simple Next.js app set up. Basically, it's just a Next.js app that I integrated with Shan CN UI. So that's basically what we just have. And then this is all we have on the page. So now let's just set up. Now, before we do set up though, we need to have like a .env file that will contain all of the variables we need, the environment variables we need. So let me just show you that quickly. So I have a .env.example file, and I'll show you how we come about these variables. So the first is Google. Let me show you how we set up Google. So if you come to like your regular Gmail account, right? If you click on the icon here, you'll see manage your Google account. By the time you open the manage your Google account, come to security. When you get to security, the first thing you want to do is make sure that your two-step verification is turned on. So if I open my own two-step verification, mine is turned on, by the way. Oh, I need to enter my password, so let me quickly do that. So I'm in, and just if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see where we have this app passwords. So just go ahead and click on app passwords, and currently I have 2 apps. Okay, let me just go ahead and delete this one. All right, good. Now you're going to need to create an app. I've already created one, yes, but let me just create an app. I'll just call this next email. All right, let me just call it this name, yeah, and then I'll click on create. Now when you click on create, what it's going to do is it's going to generate a password for you, right? So I'm going to copy this password, and then I'll click on done. And then let's head back to our .env.example. So what you need is, for Google, you need 3 things, 3 variables: email host, email user, email password. This is going to be left as is. Your email user is going to be your email, so my email at gmail.com, while the password is going to be this password that we just generated. So if I paste it in, the only difference is that I will just need to remove the spaces. So you don't need the spaces, so just get rid of them, right? So that's how you set up this for Google. Now to set your resend, what you need is a resend key. So what you just need to do is come to resend.com and create a free account. Now resend will give you the ability to test the service, but it's quite limited. But the most important thing is that you can set up. So when you get to resend and you create an account, you'll see something that looks like this dashboard. Now go ahead and click on API keys. When you click on API keys, you have access to your resend API key. So just copy it and then come here and paste it in. So that's for resend. That one is out of the way. Now also for resend, you can go ahead and just click on these docs, and it will just show you the documentation. All right, but maybe I'll do that later. The last one is Amazon Web Service. Now for Amazon Web Service, you need these 4 pieces of information: the SMTP host, the email, the username, and the password. I'll show you how you can get that. Now first of all, you need to sign up on Amazon Web Service. When you sign up on Amazon Web Service, right, so it will be a page that looks like this: Amazon simple email service. Go ahead and create an account. You need to verify the account and before you have access to test. So by the time you finish verifying your account, you need to come to your dashboard or your console and open your Amazon simple email service. That's where you need to be. So I'll just go ahead and open that. I wanted to actually open it up so that you can see while I do it. So I've opened it up here, and you need to create some your identity. So that's like your email that is verified. So you can see here that I've verified these emails. So if you go ahead and click on create identity, all you just need to do is add any email that you have access to. It can be Gmail, it can be any email. The Amazon will send you an email and you just need to click on the verification link and it will be added here. It's with that email that you can now go ahead and test. So it doesn't have to be a unique email. It can be Gmail or anything. So you see I added Gmail here. All right, so when you've done that, you now need to come to your SMTP settings. If you come to click on SMTP settings, if this is your first time, you're going to need to create SMTP credentials. So if you click on that, it will create the credentials for you. Meanwhile, because this is not my first time, I can just click on manage my existing SMTP credentials and it will show me all my credentials. Now those credentials, they are actually just 4 that you need. So this is let me just come here. All right, so you need the SMTP host, which is this one, SMTP user, which will be the email that you verified, then SMTP username, which you're going to get when you create your SMTP credentials, and then the password. So those are the 4 pieces of data that you need. So now that we've gotten the setup for the 3 services out of the way, let's head over to Next.js and proceed. Yeah, so I'm going to come to Next.js now, my page, and then I'm just going to get rid of this high text. Now what I want to do is I want to create a form, and by the way, I'm going to be saving us a lot of time to just bring in some things that I've already done. So what we want to do is we want to create a form. All right, and let me just put the closing tag for the form. Yeah, and inside that form we're going to have the input fields. So let me just bring in the state. So there will be 4 states that will represent the input field, or that will tie to the input field. So let me come here and do like this. Okay, so look at this. Let me go over this with you. So we're going to need the subject when we want to send an email. We're going to need the message, which is the body of the email. We're going to need the email. So who do you want to send that email to? And then there is the email service. Now this email service is going to be one of 3. So Gmail, Resend, or AWS. So but I'll just set the default to be Gmail. Now remember I told you that we were going to use ShadCN for our UI. So if you just go ahead to ShadCN, you can just go, and if you've not used it before, you can read their documentation, but I already have it set up here. So I'll just import all of the ShadCN components that I need to make this work. So at the top here, I'll just come here and just paste in. This is all I need, and I've installed it. So button, text area, input, and all of that. So now that that is out of the way, let us come and build out the components of the form component. So I'll come down here and I'll just bring in each input field one after the other. So first off, I'm going to need to have this input field that will capture the email of the user. So this is the email I want to send to. So that's the first. Then I'm going to bring in the subject of the email. Meanwhile, you need a subject. Your email needs to have a subject when you want to send. Yeah. So this is the subject. And then I'm going to bring in the message, which is the text area. So I'll come here. Oh, I think I can close this one. And then I'll just bring that in. Then lastly, I'm going to bring in a select field that will enable us to select the email service we want to use while we send the email. So I'll just bring in that. So this is the select field, yes. And then lastly, this is a button. If I go ahead and save, oh, I'm going to have an error because I've not created this function to send email. So forgive me, let me quickly create the function to send the email. So I'll just come here and say const, or let me just see if I can use a shortcut function. Okay, so I wanted to use okay, so I'll just hit tab, and then I'm just going to, this is GitHub Copilot that just created this stuff for me. So let me just say prevent default, and like so, and then I'm just going to do a console.log of everything. So yeah, so let me just hit tab on that, and that's what I'm just going to do. I'll just go ahead and save, and then let's come to our, yeah, so this is what we have here, right? So let us actually just do a check our console and then I'm just going to add stuff here. So I'll just say hello world, and then I'll just say this is Zeno, and then let me just, okay, so it's already set to Gmail. If I click on this button here, you'll see that we have the email and everything. So we have these guys, the form is wired up correctly. So now what we need to do now is to create the API that will send the email. Yeah, so for us to create that API, we're going to need to come to this app, and inside of the app I will create an API folder. So API, all right, so that's the folder that we hold all of our APIs. Yes, now the name of the API, I'll create another folder and call it send email. All right, now inside the send email folder, I will now go ahead and create a route. So route.js. okay, good. Now this route is where we'll now go ahead and create the functionality to send the email. Yes, so let me come here, escape, let me just give a space, and then I'll just say export, because I want to export that function. It's going to be an asynchronous function, and yeah, so I'll just hit tab on that. So this is the way the function is going to be. Meanwhile, because this is Next.js, you don't need to say send email, you just need to define, is it a post or a get? All right, so it's going to be a post request, and I don't need a response, I just need a request. Okay, so now that we have that in place, I will do a try catch block. I think I need to disable GitHub Copilot for just a second. Now before we actually build out this function to send the email, I need to install a couple of things. So the first is going to be Node Mailer, and I'll also install Resend. So let me just say npm install, small letter npm install, so Node Mailer, okay, then Resend. Hit enter on that, and it's just going to install briefly. So the installation is complete. Now we can go ahead and proceed. Now for this route.js file, I need to bring in three things. So let's bring in the Node Mailer and the Resend. Then I'm also going to bring in next response from next server. All right, since that is done, let's go ahead and do a try catch block. So try catch block, and in my try block, basically I want to try to send an email. So when I want to send the email, the first thing I want to do is I want to destructure, I want to get out the properties that I will need to send the email, and that's the email name, the email, the subject, the message, and the email service. So that's what I've just destructured here, right? All right, so having done that, we can now, wait, let me give some space here. Okay, so having done that, we can now go ahead. I'll start by writing an if statement. So let me here, I'll say send with Gmail. So I want to start by writing for Gmail. So I'll write an if statement here, and I'll say that if the email service is equal to Gmail, so I'll say Gmail. Now remember, we have three email services. If you come to our select, you see that we have Gmail, Resend, and AWS. So that's what we're targeting. So I want to start by targeting the Gmail. I say that if the email service is equal to Gmail, then I want to perform the operation to send with Gmail. Now remember, I'm using Node Mailer. So Node Mailer has like its own documentation which you can check out, but I'm just going to do it. So the first thing you need to do when working with Node Mailer is you create something called a transporter. So let me bring that in. So the transporter is going to have a service which we have set to be Gmail. It's going to have a host which we set to point to our environment variable email host. So if you come to our .env file, you see this is our email host, smtp.gmail.com. Then it's going to have a port. We set the secure to true, and then auth. Now this auth is where we now point to the email user and the password, which is what we saved here in our environment variable. All right, so that's out of the way. Now we've created the transporter. We need to create the mail options. So the mail options will just be the things like the subject, who you want to send to, the message of the email, and all of that. So let me just bring that in. All right, I'm gonna get rid of this text. Right, so this is the mail option. Now some people may just say option, but I like to be specific and call it mail options. So From, I'm going to send from, and I'm still pointing to the email user, which is this guy here. Then to, this is now pointing to the email we get from the form, this form here. Then lastly, or before the last, subject and then the message. So that's out of the way. After you've added this mail option, you can now go ahead and send the email. So to do that, I'm just going to come here and say that transporter.sendMail. Then you now reference these mail options. So with this, the email is going to be sent. Now, mind you, this transporter.sendMail can also take a callback. All right, so the callback is going to be in the sense that you're just going to do like this, and you're just going to have a function callback, and then you can now go ahead and check if there's an error or if the email was sent successfully. So in that, I don't want to go into that right now, but I just wanted you to know that that is possible. But in this our case here, we can just come here and do a return statement. So this is only going to be returned if the email was successfully sent. Next response, the JSON, and then we send a message that says email sent successfully. Meanwhile, what happens when there was an error and we could not send the email? That is where this catch block comes into play. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to bring in the error statement for the catch block, and I'll just slot it in here. So I'll paste it in, and here I'm saying that if there's an error, we'll catch the error and then we'll just send this response that failed to send email. And I think that works. So let's go ahead and try this out and see if we are able to send the email. So for now, I'm just going ahead, I'll go ahead and save. Oh, sorry, save, Control S, and that has been saved. Okay, so now let's call this function from the front end, right? I'll come to my page, and that's going to be inside of this our send email function. So let me just comment this out, and I'll just come here, and also I'm going to do a try catch block here to just, you know, call that HTTP request. All right, so here I'll say try catch. All right, maybe I should just handle the catch. So if there is an error, I'm just going to log the error to the console first. So let's get that out of the way. Then in my try block, well, I just want to do, let me just bring it in so that I can save time. So in my try block here, I'm just going to say response, and then I'll just await fetch. Now here I'm pointing to my API folder and then the send email folder. The method is post, the header is content type application JSON, and then this body. Now this body is where we now pass on what we get from this form. So we are sending the subject, the message, the email, and the email service. All right, so now having done that, we can now come down here and then we can get the data. So here I can now come here and say, wait, am I in the right place? Let me just make sure. Okay, so I need to come outside completely and then slot it in. So my data is now await response.json. So now if the data, if we're able to send the email, how do we, you know, handle that and tell the user that the email was sent successfully? Well, we're going to get a response.ok. So here I can come here and slot that in. I'll say that if response, now where is this response coming from? Look at it right here. Let me clear this guy. Okay, so look at it right here, response. So I'm saying that if response.ok, then I just want to throw a toast notification, toast.success email sent, and then if not, I'll say email not sent. Meanwhile, we installed React Toastify. So if I scroll up, you see here that we brought in React Toastify. All right, so now let me go ahead and save this guy and we can go ahead and test. Fingers crossed. I hope I did not do any typographical error, but if I did, we can always come back and test. So let me open that email. So this is the email right here, and I'll just come here and try and send. So I'm just going to bring this beside, and I'll just say hello from Zeno, and I'll now say this is a course inquiry. All right, then it's set to Gmail already. So let's go ahead and click on the send button and see what happens. maybe okay, I think I can just, so I'll click on it. Fingers crossed. By the way, we did not handle the loading state, but that's fine. So you see here we get this message that says email sent. So I'll come here to my email and let's see. Okay, so you see here we have hello from Zeno, and if you open that, you see this is a course inquiry. Okay, so now what that means is that we set up Gmail. So let's go ahead and set up for Resend, and lastly we'll set up for Amazon. All right, so that, like that, we've been able to send for Gmail. So now let's send for Resend. So I'll come to my route.js file. Remember, for our Resend, we have this key, Resend key. So I'll come to my route.js file. After I've done for this email service of Gmail, I'll just come down here and I'll say that, look, if, wait, let me give space. So I'll say that if the email service is equal to Resend, right? It's a string, so it needs to be in quotes. So Resend, then I want to do something. Now for Resend, it's a lot shorter than Node Mailer because Resend has its own API, which I told you you can easily check out if you come and click on this docs. It will just open the API for you. Let me see. So I opened up the Resend documentation, and all you just need to do is look for Next.js or whichever framework you're using. So if you go to Next.js, first of all, you need to get your API key. You're going to eventually need to verify your domain, but because we are still testing, you install Resend, and this is the documentation here. This documentation you see here, right? So the first thing is you need to create a Resend key. So if you create the Resend key, then you call this API here to send your email, and then if there's any error, you return the error, or you just, so let me just show you how we can do that. So here I say that if the email service is equal to Resend, so like I said, the first thing you need to do is to bring in your Resend key. So we create a variable called Resend, and we just say new Resend, and then we just point to the key. Meanwhile, this Resend here, I think, is what we imported from Resend. All right, so having done that, you will now invoke the function to send an email. So here I'll just come down and say resend.emails.send. Excuse me. So because we are still testing, our from has to be this email. You can't use your own email except you have added and verified your domain. That's the only condition where you can use your own email. So I want to send to this email, or you know what, let me just say I want to send to the email that belongs to email. So that's the one coming from the form, and then the subject is going to be subject, the HTML is going to be message. So it's better that way. So the last thing is we'll now send a JSON that says that the email was successfully sent. All right, so here I'll just say if this goes, then send this one, email successfully sent. That's it for Resend. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this file. So control save, and then we can test. So let's go back to our form, which is right here. Sorry. Okay, so this is our form right here. So this is the email. Now what I'll do is I'll just make it different. I'll just add Resend here just to be able to identify it, and fingers crossed, let's try to send. So you need to change this email service to Resend, and then let's try to send. So fingers crossed, I'll click the button, and as you can see, we get the email sent. So now let's check if it was actually sent. So this is my email here, and I'll refresh. Oh, and for some reason I'm not seeing it, and I think the reason is probably because I needed to send to the email with which I registered my Resend account. So instead of just sending to any email at all, I needed to send to the email with which I registered my Resend account. So let me just change this one here. Sorry, let me come back here, and I'll change this email to Zeno Trust, and then I'll click on send. And I think this time it's going to go because this is the email with which I registered the Resend account. So let me just open that email and show you. So I just opened the email, and as you can see, this is onboarding and hello from Zeno, and then you see the Resend. So what that means is that we've been able to successfully set up Resend. So the moment you verify your account with Resend, you'll be able to send to any email. All right, so that's for Resend. So now let's do for Amazon Web Service. I'll come back here and let's just review our settings. So this is the settings we need, the variables we need. So make sure you have them set up from your Amazon account. Then let's set up for Amazon. So what I'm going to do here is let me just do like this, and here for the Amazon Web Service we're also going to use Node Mailer. So here let me just open this up, and here I'll say if the email service is equal to AWS, right, then I want to send to with Amazon. So how am I going to do this? Well, I'm just going to say that we're going to bring in the transporter just like we did for Gmail. Okay, so I'll come here and slot in the transporter now, but this time we're going to remove the service. So you see I commented out this service because it's not Gmail. Then the host, we're going to change the host to process.env and then AWS SMTP host, which is what we created here, AWS SMTP host. Then this is the port, this is going to be secure, and then the auth will now be AWS SMTP user and AWS SMTP password, which are the information we get from our AWS console. After you've created this, you now need to create the mail options. So I'm just going to come after my transporter and then I'll slot in my mail options. Now from has to be process.env and AWS email user. Remember, I told you that in AWS you have to verify the email before you can send from it. So that's why I added this guy here. Then the two will be the email, the subject will be the subject, the HTML will be the message. Lastly, we're going to send the email. So here I'll just do my AWS transporter.sendMail. So I'll come here and then I'll say transporter.sendMail with the mail options. Last but not the least, let us send the response to the front end if it is successful. Now I'll slot that in and say email sent successfully if we're able to successfully send that email. Now let me go ahead and save, and that should be it. Now if I come here to my browser and I come here, this time I'll say hello from Zeno, and then I'll just change this to AWS, and then I'll change this email service to AWS. Now fingers crossed, let me just send this one right here. But before I send this, I need to change this one back to the previous email. So Donald Z, which is the one I verified with AWS, and then I will go ahead and click send. So fingers crossed, let's see if we're able to send it. Okay, so I'm not getting anything. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, but let me just confirm. Okay, so it just came here and it told me email not sent. So obviously there was an error, and we see the error here in the console. So let me just open it up and see, just to be sure. Okay, we don't have the full details about the error, but I'm just going to track it down and see what exactly I did wrong. So let me see in my route, what did I do here wrong? So I said AWS, and I think that's what I used for. So in the bit to troubleshoot, I think maybe in my route.js, I should actually just add my callback here. So when I do my transporter in my AWS, by the way, when I do my transporter.sendMail, what I want to do is I want to add a comma here and add a function callback. So I'll say function, and it's just going to be a regular function syntax. Now this function is going to take an error and an info argument. Then here we can now say that if there is an error, then I'll just do a console.log of error, so error, and then in my else block I'll just do a console.log of info, which will just show me the information about the email that was sent. So that's it. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this file and we can test again. And I think normally, you know, I told you about this callback that the transporter.sendMail function has. It takes two arguments, which is the mail function, which is this mail option, sorry, and a function callback. So this is what I was talking about then. All right, so now let me just come here and try to send again, and let's see what happens. I hope it sends this time because I don't want to spend too much time here. So I'll click. Aha, so you see it tells us email sent. Now if you come to your console, okay, so I was expecting that I would see something logged in my console, but apparently not. But the most important thing is that we have our email sent. So that's it for sending email with Gmail, for sending email with Resend, and setting up AWS Amazon Web Service SES. So that's how you can set that up, and I hope you learned something in this email, and I will see you in another tutorial. Bye for now.